Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Frenemies here from the ILTV studios in Tel Aviv. Together with me today is Josh Hasten, right? I'm saying it right?
You said it perfectly.
A radio talk show host in the Land of Israel radio network.
It's great to be here with you.
Great to have you. Let's get started. We have a busy show.
Let's roll. So we have another day and another series of days on the Gaza border with extreme tension. Another sleepless night the other night for the residents living in the Gaza envelope. Dozens of rockets fired at civilians here in Israel. And we also have the firebomb kites over and over again being flown into Israel. And Israel needs to decide what it's going to do to stop the terror. This is terror. These are attempted infiltrations. People trying to come. Hamas directed people trying to come into Israel. They're using helium balloons. They're using condoms now to try to burn Israel to the ground. But that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. And it's my point of view that the IDF and our leadership has to take a stand once and for all and not allow the Hamas to continue on this path.
I think you forgot one thing, first of all, that Gaza and Israel are not totally isolated from each other. And Israel controls the borders of Gaza, and the people of Gaza are suffering. And what we are seeing here, this is their way to say, I feel in need, I feel that I'm suffering, I had enough, I have nothing to lose, I want to change my situation. Because if the people of Gaza will feel good and they will have some hope, their motivation to start a war will be lower. The problem here is not that the Hamas wants to kill Israel. Hamas wants to take off the siege and to have an opportunity to open Gaza to the world and reconnect the people of Gaza to the people of the world. And this is, I think, the goal of these balloons and kites and everything. And we know the balloons and kites are dangerous. They are firing all the lands around Gaza. But no Israeli person has died because of that. This is different than just firing missiles. And we cannot treat the people that are using kites with some fire. It's not bombs, it's fire. In order to fire the land, we cannot deal with them like they are terrorists that we need to kill them and to shoot them from there. We're talking about sometimes teenagers.
So you're saying it would be better if an Israeli died? Meaning Israel would have more of the authority to defend itself?
No.
We shouldn't have to wait for casualties on this side. They've burned thousands and thousands of dunam or acre of our fields. And this is, if Israel wasn't there, if the IDF soldiers weren't on the border, they would come in and attack and murder Israelis in the first Israeli community. In 2005,
I'm not so sure, by the way.
We pulled out of Gaza entirely in 2005. If Hamas really wanted a better life or whatnot, why aren't they also protesting at the Egyptian border? This is a deliberate attempt by Hamas to try to infiltrate into Israel and to murder Israelis, and we can't let that happen.
If Hamas wants to murder, just want to murder Israelis, so why they came to the borders without weapons? Why they came to demonstrate without weapons? They did it without weapons, and not even a single shot was fired into Israel proper from the demonstration. There is a reason for that, because Hamas and the Palestinians understood that what they have to do is to create a protest that it will be harmful for Israel. This is, by the way, the reason why we are talking about Gaza. Because if this protest will be totally just kites, so no one will talk about it. So they are trying to harm Israel, I agree with you, but they are not trying to kill with these kites. They are doing it with the missiles. And I think that we need to understand that when you are facing terrorists, a real terrorist that is aiming to kill you, you have all the right and you obligate to act. But if this is civilians that try to protest and to say, I feel pain, I want to change the situation, we need to take close attention to that. And I think that if we will go to a war about the kites, then for sure missiles will fall over Israel, and then for sure there will be casualties, dead, and funerals. I prefer lands that are burned than even one funeral of an Israeli.
Well, I could introduce you to a family from Sderot that had gunfire directed at their house in Sderot, meaning they fired from Gaza over the border. They're firing dozens.
Not from the demonstrations.
right
It
from
might
the border
happen
of
in the
Gaza.
night or
so we
things
can't
like that.
say maybe it was from the demonstration.
No,
maybe it
we are
wasn't.
talking about demonstrations.
We're talking about violent demonstrations. We're talking about people with knives infiltrating the borders. We're talking about people with grenades. We're talking about IEDs placed on the border to try to murder Israelis and
So what
Israeli
you are
soldiers.
saying, so I will understand, the only motivation for the Gaza people is just to kill Israelis or Jews. They have no thinking about what will happen day after. They're just radical, crazy people. I think I give them a bit more credit. I think that they want to change in their situation. And if there will be a change, they will have things to lose. And then thinking about killing Israelis will be maybe priority number 2 or 3, or will fade away totally.
I have an idea. Let's remove Hamas from Gaza. Let's remove those who are the ones responsible for their lives, who took over Hamas, Hamas took over Gaza in 2007.
There is two problems with this idea.
They took over from the Palestinian Authority, and they're directing Gaza as they see fit. In other words, you have this horrible, evil, tyrannical regime in Gaza. I think Israel should rid Gaza of Hamas. We'd be doing them a favor. Just one point. The residents of Gaza today are still calling their neighbors from Gush Katif, who were thrown out of their homes in 2005, and asking, when is Israel going to come back to Gaza?
You just told me that the only thing that they want to do is to kill.
It's so sad that Hamas is ruining and ruling their lives. Well, let's give them a better opportunity. Let's help the people in Gaza by overthrowing Hamas.
Two problems with your things. First of all, it's not realistic. Israel cannot take down Hamas. Hamas is an idea. It's not just a bunch of people. And second, you cannot dictate your willingness on the Palestinians. And I'm telling you, and I know Palestinians, and I'm telling you sadly that, because I'm in favor of the Palestinian Authority rather than Hamas. But many Palestinians feel that the Palestinian Authority is getting zero from Israel, and it's collaborating with the West and Israel, and Hamas is fighting for the Israeli interest. And I'm telling you that many of the people in the Palestinian side, including West Bank and Gaza, think that Hamas represents them today more than the PA. And I think that what we need to do, when Hamas is asking to talk with Israel, and this is what they are doing, they are ready for a huge deal with Israel, we need to take it into consideration. When Trump going to meet the head of North Korea, we can meet Sinwar, we can sit with Hamas. No, we don't have to do it directly. And to find a way in which Hamas will have things to lose, and the people of Gaza will have things to lose, and then they will think twice before opening a war against Israel.
Why did the PA cut off funding for Hamas?
Because
Why did they cut off for Hamas? If they cared so much about their brothers and sisters living in Gaza, the PA would continue to fund Hamas. This is all a sham. You know, Hamas is blaming this great march, as they call it, on the U.S. moving its embassy to Jerusalem. Yet, in fact, these so-called protests, I call them attempts at violence, attempts at terror, started weeks before the U.S. moved their embassy to Jerusalem. If the PA really cared about the people in Gaza, they wouldn't have cut off the funding. If Egypt really cared about the people in Gaza, they would allow the borders to be open. Hamas is targeting only Israel. They're not targeting Egypt.
Israeli ministers and Israeli parliament actually approved this week a new bill that is prohibit the people, the citizens of Israel, to video and to take pictures of Israeli army in the West Bank fighting or clashing with Palestinian civilians. And I think that this is an undemocratic bill. I think it's ridiculous, and I think that there is a political meaning behind it. We are not thinking about the soldiers, we are thinking about the reality, and we don't like the reality, because the reality is occupation. And when you bring Israeli soldiers to control civilians, eventually you will end up with very nasty pictures. You don't want to show them, you don't want to see them, you don't want to have a discussion about the price of the occupation of settlements and all of the things that are going around in the West Bank. Therefore, this bill is trying to blind our eyes. And you know, there is a fairy tale about Mio, Mio on the wall, who is the prettiest of all? We don't like what the mirror shows us, so we try to break the mirror. I hope, and I have good ways to believe, that this really ridiculous bill will be taken off eventually and will not pass forward, because not only that it's not democratic, it's also impossible to enforce this kind of law.
Well, what we're really talking about here is protecting the IDF soldiers. You have anarchists and other extremist organizations who literally get up into soldiers' faces as they're trying to do their duty and protect the residents of the State of Israel and protect the Arabs who live in Judea and Samaria.
I know some settlers that are doing the same, you know.
So what you really have here is people who are endangering the lives of the soldiers. When a soldier's on duty and he's distracted or she's distracted from their duty, that is unacceptable. That is putting a soldier in danger. These individuals are not interested in protecting the Arabs in Judea and Samaria. That's their excuse. What they're trying to do is harm Israeli soldiers. Now, I will say the following. I think the IDF should, from time to time, allow journalists to be embedded with them. Let's say the situation in the...
like in North Korea, you know, then they are also allowed journalists, but only if you will come with us to the location that we are saying, the time that we would like to...
does not endanger the soldiers. That's the point. There were plenty of American journalists embedded in Iraq, for example, and they can be embedded. And I think that would be good for Israel's public diplomacy efforts if you embed, but it has to be within cooperation. If you want a statement today from Dover Tzahal, from the IDF spokesman's unit, you can't just talk to any soldier in the street. You have to call up and get permission, and that's standard in any army in the world.
I don't need to call anyone. The soldiers, if he would like to speak with the press, he needs to call the army spokesperson.
No, he doesn't need you. You need him. If you want to get a quote from him, we're talking about endangering our soldiers. I would not put our soldiers in harm's way.
I'm a free citizen in a democratic state, and if I have a video camera and I'm coming to someone, I don't need to call anyone. If he is a soldier and he is giving me the interview, this is his problem.
If he gets hurt, that's on your head. If he gets hurt, that's on you for distracting him.
Of course, there is laws in Israel that are forbidding people to stop soldiers, security people from acting. This is not the law about stopping them, you know, physically or harming them. This is only talk about filming, meaning that the pictures that are being taken are a bit problematic for us, and we don't like it to be taken, and we don't people to see it. So therefore, we are creating this kind of law. And you know, it's also not realistic because so many people today have cameras, and you got civilian camera, and you got also the policemen themselves, and maybe soldiers in the future that will have cameras 24 hours in order to show that they are, how do they behave. So it's a bit ridiculous. It's trying to go back in time to the time that a camera was really an exclusive thing. We have it, and I think that it's very good that we are having it, because I think that if there is a soldier that did something wrong to a Palestinian, even people in the right wing would like to see that, would like to say their opinion. If we would like to keep our army moral, even in this impossible situation of occupation, we need these pictures, we need this movie, because we want to see what's going on.
So do you believe then the IDF should drop their censor completely? Meaning, if God forbid a soldier is hurt and a family needs to be alerted, and some joker shows up in the face of a soldier who was just wounded or whatnot, or God forbid killed, should he have that right to do that? No. Families should, God forbid, not find this information from these jokers who come and show up with cameras. Everyone today thinks they're a journalist. That's the problem.
Definitely, yes, they can do it. Eventually, you got the mass media that they have their ethics, but people can do whatever they want as long as they are not breaking the law. And if you're changing the law and they are creating it's impossible for them to take pictures of soldiers, you are harming also the Israeli army. And I'm telling you,
if you're harming a soldier, you're breaking the law.
If you are really care for the soldiers and you really feel that you would like to protect them, don't send them to the West Bank.
I have faith
Find
in
a solution
army.
for the conflict, and don't send them to these ugly missions that even if we will close our eyes, it's still going to be ugly, and it's still going to be part of the routine in the West Bank.
It'll be much uglier when the Qassam rockets and the Grads and the mortar shells are falling on Ben Gurion Airport.
Honestly,
if you leave the soldiers and get rid of the soldiers and leave the communities there, you'll have shutdown of our only international airport on a daily basis. We saw it in the war in Gaza in 2014.
We saw that we have peace with Egypt.
Be every single day.
This is what some people thought. Egypt much more dangerous, by the way, than the Palestinians.
Every military man knows you don't give up the high ground. You give up the high ground, you're in trouble.
I know so many
The airport will be closed every single day if you hand over these areas to what will, in fact, become Hamastan number 2. You already have one in Gaza,
so many former head
I
know so many former head of the army, the chief of staff, that will say that the right thing for Israel's security is to have the two-state solution. I don't think that they lost their mind. I think that they have clear view about what's going on, and therefore they are supporting the two-state solution. And if you are not supporting that, you are supporting the occupation. Occupation is ugly. Ugly is picture. Allow at least the pictures to come to the television front of the people so people will know what they are standing for. If you are standing in favor of the occupation, this is the reality.
If you want another Gaza border situation in Tel Aviv, be my guest and turn around.
You know that I'm talking about not a unit. First of all, I prefer not to be in Gaza.
80% of our population.
Do you miss Gaza?
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Look what we have today. We have today firebomb kites,
even with that, we are better off. You know what we had before?
Thousands of rockets.
You know what we had before? We had missiles.
We didn't have tunnels.
We have more casualties.
We didn't have tunnels.
We had missiles.
No,
we had
true.
much less space.
Much more missiles.
No,
the missiles increased by 500%.
But the numbers of killings,
500%.
it was much more closer. This is why you cannot protect yourself. And I'm telling you that I don't know any Israeli that is really miss Gaza. You know why? Because I don't know any Israeli party that is saying, let's go back to Gaza.
I know Arabs who miss Gaza. The Arabs miss Israel's control over Gaza.
If they are missing,
they miss our control over Hebron and all these other countries.
If they are so missing the Israelis, why they keep fighting us? So why they keep fighting us?
They have many more opportunities.
But why they keep fighting us?
The Arabs here have more than any other country in the Middle East.
So why they keep fighting us? Why? If they are so happy with us and
Hamas.
they want to, no,
you know
that the people that are fighting Israelis are not just Hamas, and we are talking about huge numbers. Thousands of people are fighting Israel every year. Why they keep doing it? I'm telling you, they are doing it because they are not missing us, and they want us to give them freedom, to allow them to live, not to control their borders, not to put them under siege, not to be in their houses, not to check what's going on 3 a.m. in the morning, to knock on doors and to check their houses. They want to be free of the occupation.
I invite you to Gush Etzion to see how the Arabs are thriving,
working for you,
working together
for
with
you,
Jews.
not together.
So the Chabad movement this week is planning some sort of rally. From what I understand, it's in memory of the Rebbe, the Chabad spiritual leader, in Kikar Rabin in Rabin Square in Tel Aviv. Now, what's the big deal here? Apparently, Chabad says that they would like to put a mechitza, a separation between men and women, as is customary in many, many synagogues in Israel and across the world. So what's the big deal? What's the controversy? Apparently, some women are offended by the fact that they will not be sitting together with men, and somehow, for some reason, women who won't even be attending the event are saying that the event should be postponed or canceled because there is a separation. So I want to know what the problem is here. You have synagogues across the world where men and women sit separately. From what I understand, Chabad is not saying, women, you go sit in the toilet, you go sit. You're not invited to this event.
I don't know. I didn't see the map of the event.
All I understand is that men and women, for religious beliefs, are being asked to sit separately. It's a common practice. I don't even know why this is a story or why there's controversy or why the mayor of Tel Aviv would get involved in separating the sexes, as is commonplace in many religious circles. Let's respect them. Let's respect their beliefs.
It's a big story because the mayor of Tel Aviv actually said that this is unacceptable, and for that reason this event is cancelled by the municipality. Didn't give the approval for that, and I support this position because specifically I think that when we are talking about Tel Aviv, that this is the symbol of liberalism. This is the symbol of freedom. This is a symbol of secular belief. There is such a thing, as I see it, secular belief, that you believe in people and not in God. And this city cannot allow a situation in which in the public area, women will be not allowed to come to part of the square. The square belongs to all people. I cannot imagine that people will be excluded if they are, coming from Africa or Europe, if they have skin in one color or another, and same with women and men. When we are talking about synagogue, this is another issue because of two reasons. First of all, this is really a religious ceremony, and the event was not a religious ceremony. It's not a prayer. And second, synagogue eventually is a closed place, a bit private for the people that are, running the place. It's not for everyone. It's the people that making the decision to go there. Here, this is the street. This is my as a citizen, it's my freedom to be anywhere in the street that I want.
So you're not willing to respect the religious beliefs of those who believe in the separation of men and women? I mean, it might not be for me either, but you just mentioned Tel Aviv is a city of freedom. If it's a city of freedom, then you should be able to respect their religious
Freedom
beliefs.
of choice.
So what basically you're saying, the city is free, but only if you are not Chabad, only if you are one of us, only if you are liberal.
No, it's free
if
also.
you want to show that Tel Aviv is truly a free city, you'll allow the event to happen, and respectfully, the men can sit on one side and the women can sit on the other side. For me, it's not ideal either, but you know what? That proves that Tel Aviv is a free city. If you allow all communities,
with you.
Chabad, religious,
if there
secular,
is a community,
pride,
let me
the
ask
people
you,
who support the Pride Parade.
Because Pride Parade is going on there, and people can make the decision whether they are coming or not. It's not. You're not saying to women,
you don't have to
can
come to this
just
also.
a second. No, but here, if I
No
want
one's
to,
forcing
even if
anyone
I
to
want to
come.
cross over the road, there is some place, the location, that will be decided that it's not allow women to get inside. And I think that when you are talking about the public sphere, it's open for everyone. And try to imagine what will happen if this discrimination will be not about men and women, but other things. I think we will go mad, and there will be a reason to go mad, because it will be almost racism.
This is separate but equal. This is separate but equal.
No
one is saying women stay home.
I know how Chabad do it.
If Chabad would say women stay home. For Chabad, by the way, you should know, before you say anything else about Chabad, Chabad is a wonderful organization that supports.
I have a question. How many women are going to be on stage?
All over the world.
I checked it. How many women are going to be on stage?
How many we're going to be
Zero.
on stage? So to end on a good word, and we had a lively discussion debate here today. The World Cup is taking place right now in Russia, and 32 teams are battling out as we speak here today for the cup, for the championship. And what I see in the streets of Israel, whether it's Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or Gush Etzion, regardless of where you are or where you live, I see people families joining together to watch these soccer games, or football if you grew up in England. Unfortunately, the Israeli national team did not qualify for this event. I think the last time they were there is 1970. But it doesn't matter. I saw a wonderful clip yesterday of Israeli children celebrating when Uruguay scored a goal. So this is something that can unite us. Sport can unite, regardless of what your position is on all these issues. So at least let's celebrate the World Cup and be happy this summer, and hopefully only good times and good things will be ahead as we enter the summer months here in Israel.
My good word is going to all the people around the world that oppose the decision of the United States to separate children from their parents just because they are coming to America illegally. It was a shame to see it, and I'm very happy that eventually we are over it and Trump changed his mind. And also people in Israel thought that it's wrong and they expressed their view. We have no time left, so thank you very much, George Haston. Thank you for your viewers. See you again in another episode of Israeli Frenemies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I think it